Welcome to AHLC TV's weekly roundup. In this week's program, AHLC TV brings you the following stories from the region. Ganga Maya Adhikari's 10-day ultimatum to Nepal's government ends. Earthquake relief still not reaching remote areas in Nepal. AHLC TV interviews Dipendra Jha. Health of blasphemy-accused death row prisoner Asia Bibi worsens. Safrullah Chowdhury challenges contempt of court conviction in Bangladesh. Glossolita Jaima of Mindanao People's Caucus in the Philippines talks about delayed justice. AHLC documentary film Healing Manipur premieres in Geneva as violence escalates in the northeast Indian state. Welcome to AHLC TV's weekly roundup. I'm Josephina Bergston. The program begins in Nepal with the ongoing hunger protest by Ganga Maya Adhikari, who has asked the government for information on the red corner notice issued against Rudra Acharya, one of the alleged murderers of her son, Krishna Prasad Adhikari. Ganga Maya and her husband Nanda Prasad began a fast unto death protest last year, demanding action against the murderers of their son, who was allegedly killed by Maoist cadres in central Nepal in June 2004. Ganga Maya's husband Nanda Prasad died on 23 September 2014 after 329 days of fasting. Even after losing her husband, Ganga Maya continued her hunger strike for a total of 360 days until the government signed a 5-point deal with her in October last year. According to the agreement between Ganga Maya and the government, the accused involved in killing her son are to be produced in court and the judicial process is to be facilitated. The government has so far failed to honor the agreement. On June 5th this month, Ganga Maya Adhikari gave a new 10-day ultimatum to the government to address her demands. She has intensified her fast again and now only consumes water and juice. With no response from the government, Ganga Maya has submitted a Right to Information or RTI application requesting an update on the red corner notice issued against Rudra Acharya, who has been living in the United Kingdom. Acharya is alleged to be the shooter who killed Krishna. The RTI application was registered on 15th of June at the Nepal Police headquarters in Kathmandu. The Asian Human Rights Commission has urged the government of Nepal to reform the criminal justice institutions to ensure that parents do not need to starve themselves to death to get the police to investigate independently, the prosecution to prosecute effectively, and the judges to rule impartially and swiftly. AHLC TV's reporter in Nepal, Shiva Hari Gyawali, spoke with Ganga Maya Adhikari in her hospital bed at Bir Hospital in Kathmandu.
विदेशमा छ रे एउटा अपराधी भनेर उनीहरूले भनेका छन् त रुद्र आचार्य भन्ने त्यो चाहिँ मैले चिनेको छैन त्यसो घर कहाँ हो को हो त मलाई थाहा छैन मैले जारी दिएको चाहिँ के अरे बेलायतमा छ र हङकङमा छ भनेर उनीहरूले भाषण गरिरहेका छन् मलाई त्यो बेलायतको कुन हो मैले चिनेको छैन तर हो त्यो भनेदेखि त्यसले बोक्छ र त्यसले हो मैले मारे भन्छ अनि त्यसलाई पनि त झिकाएर कारबाही गर्नु पर्यो हैन त्यो मेरो छोरो मारेर अनि बेलायत गएर जेल बन्न पाउँछ के मेरो छोरो के कारणले मारेको किन मारेको मेरो छोरो त्यो रुद्र आचार्यले नै हो गोली हानेको भन्छ नि मैले गोली हाने हो भन्छ त्यसले भनेदेखि बसोस् जेलमा राखोस् त्यसमा त्यो अरू यहाँका बरु म मेरो निर्णय गरेर बसेँ मान्छेलाई हो तपाईँ जस्तो मान्छे आउनुहुन्छ म बोल्न सकिन्छ नि त बोल्छु न भन्छु पढ्न नसकेपछि त कसले भनिदिएला अरे बाबु बुझिराख्नुहोस् होइन म त अब आजभन्दा भोलिभन्दा भोलिबाट म पानी खान्छु म यो बोल्न सक्ने मेरो खुबी हुनु नगएको.
The program stays in Nepal for an update on the earthquake relief operation. Nepalese Supreme Court advocate Dipendra Jha has been actively engaged with emergency relief efforts. He has found big problems around the distribution of supplies. Some of the worst affected and most remote areas, where 100% of buildings were destroyed, have been consistently neglected, while easy-to-reach areas have been supplied repeatedly. Here is Dipendra Jha.
Well, I went to a place in Sindhupalchok called Kartike, and we distributed our relief materials in the BDC called Golche. So, and it's particularly Tamang areas, indigenous community areas. And I remember a young girl of 14 who came to ask me for a tent. There were 2,000 people waiting for us to get our relief materials. So like I felt very sympathetic, because he said me that my father died and we have nothing on the roof, and I gave her tent, and that became the cause of violence to her, because then all the men started attacking her to snatch that tents, because it was about survival. So the person who will get the tents will survive. So like then the army told me, no, please, your sympathy would put a individual in danger. So you can imagine the situations there. So and now just 2 days back I got information that now the government has almost supplied the relief material to all areas, including tents and rice. But now as the rainy season has started, I think the quality of tents are really low, because the government bought and there is a lot of issue of corruptions. So in the rainy season that might not work. So now they need is like a zinc sheet, like a permanent type of house to protect them from the rain. And I think it would be actually the reconstruction process to protect from the rain is really slow, and particularly it has like some kind of discrimination as well, because if you go in the remote area, what you find that the people who are from the so-called higher caste, who has reached in the political cadres, they are easily getting all those materials. But the people like women, Dalit, indigenous community, those who can't speak, those who don't have access in the state apparatus in politics, there is a kind of discrimination in the distribution in the relief material. So this is the overall picture I have observed there in Nepal.
And now to Pakistan. The Asian Human Rights Commission has issued an urgent appeal in the case of Asia Bibi, who has been on death row for allegedly committing blasphemy in 2010. The 50-year-old Pakistani Christian mother of 5 is suffering from intestinal bleeding and is being denied medical treatment by jail authorities because extremist organizations are demanding that Bibi be executed immediately. She urgently needs medical care, and her family members say that Bibi is so weak she can hardly walk. Bibi was sentenced to death following a blasphemy accusation. In June 2009, Asia Bibi got into an argument with a group of Muslim women with whom she had been harvesting berries. The other women had gotten angry with her for drinking the same water as them. She was subsequently accused of insulting the Prophet Muhammad and was arrested and imprisoned. Bibi denies the charges. The Superintendent of Police has failed to complete the investigation required by law, and both domestic and international appeals for clemency have failed, as the government fear angering extremists. Bibi's family members are in distress and have been in hiding for nearly 5 years. Soon after Bibi's conviction, extremist crowds took to the streets calling for her death, some threatening to kill her if she ever got out. In 2011, his own bodyguard murdered Salam Taseer, former governor of Punjab province, for speaking in favor of Asia Bibi and against abuse of the blasphemy law. Blasphemy laws were introduced in Pakistan in the 1980s to protect against wounding the religious feelings of any persons, specifically Islamic religious feelings. In 1992, the death penalty became mandatory upon conviction on blasphemy charges. So far, no person has been executed under the blasphemy law, but others have languished in prison for up to 14 years without any trial. The next story in this week's Roundup is from Bangladesh. Right Livelihood Award laureate Dr. Zavrullah Chowdhury has been sentenced to 1 hour in the dock and a 5,000 taka fine for contempt of court in a case that has caused great concern over the state of freedom of expression in the country. The case started last year when respected Dhaka-based British journalist David Bergman was charged with contempt of court for articles raising questions around the International Crimes Tribunal's version of the 1971 Independence War death toll. The court found Bergman guilty of creating confusion through his irresponsible writings and hurting the feelings of the nation, and he was sentenced to a symbolic punishment and fine. A statement expressing concern over Bergman's conviction was subsequently published and signed by 50 citizens. Contempt of court charges were brought against the 23 of the signatories who refused to retract their signatures. Of those, 22 have now been cleared of the charges. However, the court, led by Justice Obadul Hassan, convicted Chowdhury and ordered him to stand in the dock for an hour and pay a fine. Chowdhury has refused to comply and now risks further punishment. The AHRC has published an open letter expressing support for Chowdhury's statement, reported in the media, saying that tribunal judges misuse their power. The open letter encourages people to speak up more about court failures and misuse of power in Asia. Next in this program, Filipino attorney Glosalita Jauma of Mindanao People's Caucus speaks to HRC TV about the prolonged delays and generally slow process of getting justice within the Filipino judicial system.
I've been handling human rights cases in the Philippines, some of which are still pending in courts. But my observation is that in the Philippines, justice seems to be slow, and well, I would say it's not really seems to be slow, but really it's slow. And there have been a lot of situations, instances where these cases have been dragged on, and delay in the trial, delay in rendering justice is no justice at all. So this violates the rights of the accused, because the accused person, if he turns out to be innocent, then he has spent so much years in jail already, and that has taken from him so much time in his life, so deprive him of various opportunities. So those things have to be looked into by the Philippine government, so that the rights of individuals will really be recognized, not only in theory, in law, but in practice as well before the courts of law.
And finally, a short announcement. AHRC's documentary film Healing Manipur, about the Armed Forces Special Powers Act and extrajudicial executions in India, will premiere today in Geneva. The documentary film portrays the trauma suffered by a group of women who have lost their husbands and sons to state violence, and their efforts to come together to heal themselves and their state and bring an end to the cycle of violence. The film is being screened at a side event to the 29th session of the UN Human Rights Council against the backdrop of escalating violence in Manipur after a rebel attack killed 20 Indian soldiers, prompting further harsh crackdowns by Indian government forces. The Asian Human Rights Commission and the Right Livelihood Award Foundation will jointly host today's event, with participation from members of Manipur's Human Rights Alert and Extrajudicial Execution Victim Family Association Manipur, or IFAM. That is all for this weekly roundup. For more on these and other issues, please visit www.humanrights.asia. Thank you for watching, and see you next week.